Separated by cosmic cabinets, Brandon and Logan are broadcasting Nintendo stuff live using their telepathic powers. My name is Brandon Miracle, broadcasting live from the Break Room Arcade. If you look south of me in the video version, you'll see Logan Welliver broadcasting from his
Yes.
bedroom.
Log.
I went into hyperdrive.
Hyperdrive.
Hello
I
to
think we're pretty
Sandman
hype
and
after
Santi in the chat there.
coming off of that stream we just did.
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, we've been streaming a lot of Monster Hunter as of late.
Speaking of
It's
streaming,
a
if you
good
are listening
series.
to this podcast on your favorite podcast source, we do record them live on YouTube. Typically every Friday at 7. Schedule will be changing soon, but we'll get you the info on that once we lock it down. And you know, Logan, that's not the only thing hype that happened recently.
Oh no?
No.
Wait, there's other hype things that have been happening?
Have you heard of a game called Cadence of Hyrule?
I might know about that one. I think that was that there was something of like a direct of sorts, but they didn't call it a direct. They've done this before, a Nindies showcase.
Nindies Showcase. This is the first of 2019.
And when was the last time we got a Nindies showcase that kind of included first party content?
Never.
Never. Because it's all been indie studios. And I mean, that being said, this is all indie studios, but Cadence of Hyrule, I mean, that's not entirely indie, at least in the sense that it's a Zelda game of sorts.
Yeah, so this is a sequel to Crypt of the Necrodancer, a game that's been out for a few years on other platforms, recently came to Switch. And basically, there was a pitch to do some Zelda-based DLC for the game, and then Nintendo said, no, we want a whole game.
Could you imagine? I mean, I'm not saying that this is exactly how the conversation went down, but just the idea of like, hey, we want to do some Zelda themed DLC in this style. And they were like, no. And then they were like, oh, no, that's disappointing. And then Nintendo came back and like, we want a whole game.
It's
Could you imagine
unbelievable.
being told that? Like, oh, no, we don't want DLC. We want you to just make an entire game.
I imagine, like as an indie studio, it never crosses your mind that Nintendo's going to want to work with you to this degree, so they never expected this, I imagine.
Oh, I would imagine that they would have been like, I mean, even probably just proposing an idea that like, hey, we want to do some crossover DLC for this indie. That's a stretch in and of itself. Not that it hasn't happened before. Obviously, there's Nintendo content in third-party games. But to this degree and for an indie studio, it's pretty incredible. And I feel like it really... I feel like this is a milestone. I mean, Nintendo has been really, really great about their indie support in the past few years. And I feel like this is kind of the culmination, like them being christened. It's like, yes, you are allowed to touch this IP. And of all the IPs to touch, like, Nintendo has to be like most careful over like their most critical darling, so
Yeah,
this is
it's not like they handed over Ice Climber or, F-Zero. They gave them Zelda.
yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of other franchises that they just kind of will throw out willy-nilly to other developers. Star Fox, for example.
Yep.
Not that they probably have a lot of thought process regardless of the IP. Like, let's think about this before we just, let's not be careless. But for this one, like, it just kind of was baffling. I'm like, oh. And then I think it also helps because, like, obviously you went back and you started playing Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yes, I did.
I am currently considering it, but I have so... Like, it's the age-old problem, and it's age-old now, of having too many games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel
Too
like
much to play.
once I hit near the end of high school, getting on Steam and just collecting games and then just getting them all really cheap. And so I don't even know how much my collection is like entirely worth. Like how much, like if all of these games were new, how much would I have spent on all of them? You know, so but again, like more Zelda, more Zelda. I'm always like, okay, what's the next thing? I just finished Breath. No, I didn't just finish Breath of the Wild, but it's like, oh, I finished Breath of the Wild. It's like, okay, what's next? And obviously, we're getting a remake later on in the year, and then we're getting a spinoff, which is great. I I
Yeah,
was really caught off guard, and I've said this. I said this before. Like they started playing the music in the trailer. I was like, this already looks kind of pretty Zelda-y. And then I was like, oh no, they're ripping off Zelda music right in the
I
trailer
thought the
in a
same
Nintendo.
thing.
Like this is ridiculous. And obviously, looking back on it, it's like, no, they're not going to be that dumb. And Nintendo obviously had a hand in the production, had a hand in the production of the Nindy Showcase. They did the Nindy Showcase, so they obviously approved of it. And obviously, they approved of more than just their usage because it was quite literally Zelda, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy too, because if you go back and watch the trailer, all the clues were there. Like the iron boots, the chest, the bow was in there, some of the Zelda
Even
enemies.
before the music comes in?
Yep. It,
Oh,
it was just all sprinkled in there. And if if you had a keen eye, you'd catch it, but obviously you and I did not.
yeah. I mean, usually when you're digesting those things for the first part, you're trying to digest the big parts, not the minutia,
Hmm.
the details. But obviously, we didn't really have to go over the details to realize that this is a Zelda spinoff. And man, I love the name. I love the name. I'm glad it's not The Legend of Zelda: Cadence of Hyrule. I'm glad it's just Cadence of Hyrule because one, it's a spinoff more than anything else.
Yeah.
It looks like a Zelda game, but like I don't where else it's going to differ. I don't know at this point. Other than the fact that it's like a rhythm based game, which is also exciting to me because I like rhythm games.
I love the at first like 'cause I had never played Crypt of the Necrodancer before. So when I saw the name Cadence of Hyrule, I was like, oh, that's a really nice sounding name. Obviously, it plays into sound. And then I started playing Crypt of the Necrodancer, and Cadence is the name of the main character. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay. But
So
I should clarify. The name of the game is Cadence of Hyrule: Crypt of the Necrodancer, featuring The Legend of Zelda, is its official title.
which is a mouthful, so we'll just stick with Cadence of Hyrule because
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
So after playing Crypt of the Necrodancer, I can tell you just by watching the trailer that this is Crypt of the Necrodancer with a Zelda coat of paint on it to its
Yeah.
core.
So, I mean, let me ask a question then. What I mean, I know that Crypt of the Necrodancer is a um how do you what's the word I'm looking for? I love Binding of Isaac,
Or
right?
roguelite.
It's a roguelite. Yeah. So how much of that gets like carried over and how much of the design comes from Legend of Zelda?
So
Those are the
yeah,
questions I
I'm
have.
glad you said that because it looks like there's an overworld that you traverse. In Crypt of the Necrodancer, it's all very narrow hallways and small rooms, but in this trailer, it's very big open spaces. So
Mhm.
that tells me that maybe we're getting a little bit away from the procedurally generated stuff and getting maybe to a more designed world.
Right. So I mean, is this trying to take a lot of those ideas from Crypt of the Necrodancer and try to marry it with like here's an overworld. There's a series of dungeons you have to go through. The puzzles, maybe a lot of the puzzles are based on rhythm.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool because man, rhythm and puzzles and action adventure like
And Zelda's already
oh,
really closely tied to music in the first place.
right, yeah. So I the more I talk about the game, the more excited I get about it.
I am, I mean, I have to be honest, like, I'm more excited about this than I am Link's Awakening right now.
I mean, I think in part due to the fact that we know that Link's Awakening is a remake.
Yeah,
We kind
also
of know
farther
what
out.
to right, and we know what to expect. Cadence of Hyrule, not so much, because I mean, one, we've only seen the one trailer. So we only have so much information to go off of outside of like whatever else the developer Nintendo has said about it, which I'm not sure if they have said anything about it because I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I don't think they've said much yet. Really, all we have in terms of what the game is what we got to see for the minute and a half to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but not only can you play as Link and Cadence, but you can play as Zelda too, which I thought was pretty neat. They showed some of her attacks in the trailer, and she was using Nehru's Love, Ferora's Wind. Well, maybe not Ferora's Wind. I don't think we saw that one, but Nehru's Love and Din's Fire, which are moves from Ocarina of Time, as well as parts of her moveset in Smash Brothers, which I thought was kind of neat. We see Link using the bow, the Master Sword, weapons like that he's known for, and just having all of that applied to the rhythm-based movement of Crypt of the Necrodancer is gonna be super cool. So like in Crypt of the Necrodancer, there's a heart on the bottom of the screen, and you have lines that approach it from each side that signify the beat. And if you hit the button when the lines are touching the heart, that means you're on beat. So I'm sure there'll be an equivalent to that in Cadence of Hyrule. But I mean, when you time those things right, you actually do an attack. If you miss, you just don't do anything. There is also a coin counter in Crypt of the Necrodancer that multiplies the more beats in a row that you land. And I imagine something like that will also apply here, but with rupees and not coins.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this game. I'm glad I picked up Crypt of the Necrodancer. It's very much up your alley, Logan, as far as being a roguelite. You just jump in, you play around, you die, do some upgrades.
Yeah, this, again, like the more we talk about it, the more I realize I'm like, this is my game. It's a rhythm game. It's gonna have puzzle elements. I would be very disappointed and also confused if it didn't have puzzle elements. Obviously, it's Zelda. There's just a lot going on here, and I love all of
it. The artwork, the sprite artwork, was done by the art team of Sonic Mania.
Oh, okay. I love seeing like really, really talented teams, collaborating and making this kind of stuff happen. Like, wow. Just so many incredible, talented people out there. So much so that, like, again, Nintendo would be willing to trust these people with this IP.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things that stood out to me was like, wow, this game is pretty. And that was before, we got to see Link and Zelda. And then when Link and Zelda showed up on screen, the art style just like completely locked into place for me. I'm like, oh, this is the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
It seems to take inspiration from A Link to the Past and Minish Cap and finds kind of a place in between. In terms of the character design, I really appreciate that. Leaning a little heavier on the Minish Cap side, but yeah.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a great game. Also, representing an art style that I think is underappreciated, and Minish Cap is always good.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. Also, I just started playing Minish Cap.
Oh, that game is so underappreciated.
I mean, I think it's just like because it's like the GBA title and not a lot of people go back to the GBA. I feel like it's one of the underappreciated handhelds. Not that it necessarily is underappreciated.
I think it came out post DS as well.
Oh, Minish Cap?
Yeah, it came out in late 2004.
Okay, I mean that would make sense in terms of like just kind of not that it like completely flew under the radar.
Yeah, it actually came out in 2005 in the States.
But I didn't get it, right? Like I never had that game growing up. I don't think I even really knew about it. I remember when I actually started buying a lot of games, specifically during the DS era. I remember buying like Phantom Hourglass like the day it came out. And then like beating it within a week. And I remember being super proud of myself because there was a lot of nights like spent like under my covers trying to avoid my parents because my parents had this weird like, oh yeah, you only have like an hour a week of games to play. And looking back on that, I'm like, that's not enough to finish any games.
You wouldn't be able to play anything.
Yeah. So obviously we abused that and got around it in certain ways, as does everybody when you're restricted in certain ways. You're always looking for ways like how do I break this, you know?
Hi, Crafty J. Have you back? I was just thinking, back when the Minish Cap came out, that wasn't even a game that was on my radar, despite being a Zelda fan. Because I was at that age where I was like, oh, it's a top-down sprite Zelda game. I don't want that anymore. I want big 3D Zelda games. And then I ended up getting it for, I don't know if it was my birthday. I think it was my birthday. And I think it was in 2005, because it would have been a month before my birthday. I think I ended up
Right.
getting it for my birthday without asking for it. And then, just popping it in my Game Boy Advance SP a little reluctantly. And then I started playing it, and I was like, oh, I'm dumb. This game blew me away as a kid. So go play Minish Cap. I know we are talking about Cadence of Hyrule, but go play Minish Cap.
Yeah. It's also just a very like immediately charming game.
It really is.
I definitely like I started playing it and I immediately was thinking I'm like this looks very very um like Cadence of Hyrule. It seems like they kind of
Definitely
like
an inspiration.
yeah, buddied up to it.
Mm-hmm. But that's not the only indie game that got announced. There was the other really big announcement in this Nindies showcase that started the show, in a really well-crafted trailer, might I add, with the 1950s announcer on a black and white TV screen talking about how to properly pour milk. Super funny. And then it turns out to be Cuphead. Cuphead's coming to Switch.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. I wish I could say I fully believed this was going to happen. We've had all those rumors about Cuphead and Ori and the Blind Forest coming to
Yeah.
Switch. But I'm just super happy to know that Cuphead is on the way and that Microsoft approached Studio MDHR themselves to say, hey, we want this game on Switch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely in line with the direction that Microsoft has been taking with how they've been handling IPs that they own and also publish. Um, because one, they are very much less concerned now with building and rebuilding like a base of just Xboxes. And they're more in the business of just selling software, right?
Making
Uh,
being a service.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, pairing that with hardware of their own, and pushing that in their own way. So I mean, when it popped up, like I didn't really react. Like I was like, oh, okay, it's coming. And it didn't surprise me, especially because like again, this isn't, as far as I'm concerned, like a Microsoft owned IP,
No,
but certainly they go out of their way, and I imagine that Microsoft is the one publishing it on the Switch,
like
which would
Microsoft
be
Studios or whatever their
yeah,
publishing brand is.
yeah. So I don't know. It's exciting to be a Switch owner.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great get for Switch. It makes sense. It's a colorful cartoon video game, and that's, what Nintendo's primarily known for, so it just makes
Yeah,
sense to
yeah.
have it here. Also, Cuphead and Mugman already match the colors of the Joy-Cons, and it's a two-player co-op game, so you don't really get much better than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great get. It's coming out April 18th, so not very far away. Also comes with an update that's going to add new animations, fully animated cutscenes, which the game does not have, um, and a few other little tweaks here and there. And those updates will also be pushed to other platforms on April 18th.
I love it. I love being in the modern age. I love the fact that games get better over time, you know? Not that I want to endorse games that come out of the gate and they're just unfinished or really buggy. But outside of that, I mean, even then, it's like, okay, at least those games can come back. But the fact that we get games that have already come out and are extremely polished, just right out of the gate, and then to say like, hey, well, we're going to release this on another platform. Let's do a little bit more work on it. and just make an even better product. And who knows what that's going to also do for the studio down the line, and how they're going to be crafting their next um, game. And it also, because like Cuphead's doing so well, who knows, like maybe they won't have to publish exclusively with Microsoft. Maybe they get to a point where they can just self-publish, you know. And that's also exciting, giving independence to these indie studios.
I'm sure they've certainly made a lot of money off of Cuphead, so
I
wouldn't be
I would hope
surprised.
so.
Um, and then in addition to that, we got another look at Stranger Things 3, the game, launching on July 4th alongside the release of Season 3 of Stranger Things. Um, Not a new announcement, but still just a reminder that it's coming, as well as the release date. I'm
Yeah.
interested in this. It reminds me of Zombie Ate My Neighbors, and that's a fun game.
And I love Stranger Things. Like I can't wait until Stranger Things 3 drops, because I'll probably binge it like I did with the first two seasons.
Yeah, me too. Stranger Things is like one of those like rare pieces of media where I see very, very little people, or very, very small minority of people who don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an inevitability that there's always going to be some haters,
Yeah.
especially as things get bigger. But like, Stranger Things is just. It seems like Netflix gives their creators quite a bit of freedom. Just like, hey, we want to publish it, just do your own thing. And for when it works out, it really works out. Like Netflix realizes they don't have to touch things. And I'm glad that we're getting like a game with it. I always say it's a little bit strange that like we didn't get a Stranger Things 1 and Stranger Things 2 as a game. We're just getting
Yeah.
Stranger Things 3 the game. But obviously I get it. And I think it's also interesting that it's just dropping the same day as um the actual third season. So I mean, there's also the potential that like you could just play this game and experience Stranger Things 3 that way instead of actually watching the show.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's cool at the same time. It reminds me of the age of uh like what were they called? Like companion licensed games to movies.
Oh, like ET?
Like E.T. and like all the Shrek games, that kind of stuff. It's kind
Yeah.
of reminiscent of that, but it seems like we're getting a good game out of it too.
Right, and that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of those other games are just kind of thrown together to capitalize on a popular IP, and this is obviously that, but hopefully they also realize like, hey, it should also be a good game.
Crafty J says, I thought Stranger Things 1 and 2 were mobile games. If they are, that would explain why there wasn't a 1 and 2, because there was a 1 and 2.
Yeah, okay, because if there is, I didn't even know they existed.
Yeah, me neither.
And hopefully this is a step above that.
Yeah. So quickly, I'll just read off a few of the other games that are coming out. We have Rad coming from Double Fine Productions. Katana Zero from Devolver Digital and ASCII Soft. Nuclear Throne, Super Crate Box, Vlambeer Arcade with Ultra Bugs, Creature in the Well, Pine, Blood Roots, Overland, Darkwood, Neocab, and Swim Sanity. And then two I want to highlight really quick are Red Lantern and where's the other one? My Friend Pedro.
Also Blaster Master Zero 2.
Oh yeah, that was the other
Yes.
one. Sequel to Blaster Master Zero, which was around launch of the Switch, and
Yeah,
it
I
dropped
bought
the
that.
same day.
Yeah. Um, of all of these last ones, I personally want to highlight Red Lantern, because it gives me serious Balto vibes,
Yeah,
and I love it. I love it. I'm like, I wanna get a bunch of sled dogs, and I want to do this. It was definitely one of the standouts from the Nindy
I
showcase,
like
because
the kind of concept around it too, because like there's these different events that can happen to you that are scripted, but they're not going to happen to you in any particular order, and some of them might not happen to you at all.
Right. No,
So
I love how open it feels, because it
yeah,
feels like a game that should be open. Because like again, like you are the one doing it. You're trying to make this run, and everybody's going to have a different experience. If you were to take this, this race,
The
with this
Iditarod?
team of sled dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that I am carrying a bunch of vaccines in the back, and that I get to save some
So,
kids'
sick
lives.
kids.
Yeah. And if we get to name the dogs, I feel like that has to be a feature. They're all going to be named Balto.
uh, let's see. And then quickly, I want to talk about my friend Pedro from Devolver Digital and Dead Toast. I really like the way this game looks. The character was like super acrobaty, and it's like slow motion jumps when shooting enemies. I thought it looked kind of neat. And then
Yeah.
obviously there's the banana
Yeah.
Pedro.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the better ones. It kind of it took me a minute to digest what was happening, but it's also what I've come to expect from Devolver. So when I see something really zany, and Devolver comes after it, I was like, oh, okay,
Makes sense.
yeah,
Uh, Crafty J says there's so many games I want this year, but I need to finally get myself to beat some of the ones I got last year. I've been having a blast with Persona 5 and Kingdom Hearts 3, and those two games will take up some time.
yeah. I mean, Persona 5 in particular,
100 plus
which is,
hours.
yeah, that's something I want to digest eventually, but I'll get to it when I
I'm
get
glad
to
that you
it.
said that, though, because yesterday, Persona 5 The Royal got announced, which is an expanded port, or not port,
Mm-hmm.
an expanded edition of Persona 5, which features a
Yeah.
brand new character, some new story, and is coming to PS4.
Yeah, I was pulling for a switchboard, especially after Joker, but I mean I'll play it on PS4, right? It's not like that's the worst thing ever. Like, oh no, I don't get it on my Switch. But I'm also kind of glad that I haven't played it yet, because now I have the better version to buy.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
So they showed a new character in that trailer, a female, and we don't know if she's going to be a new confidant or if she's going to be a female version of the protagonist, which is something that they've done with Persona second editions in the past. And the reason I bring that up is because data miners have found a companion to Joker in his data named Jane, which makes me think that this alternate character will be an alt costume for Joker in Super Smash Bros. This makes sense,
Mhm.
especially considering that this, Joker comes out before the end of April, and they announced that during the announcement of Persona the Royal, they announced that they have more information to announce on April 24th, which is late April.
So is this a possibility that it's going to come to more platforms, or is this going to be
Crafty
and
J says we don't know if it's coming to new systems, but
right, obviously.
it was announced for PS4.
Right, right. I mean, and they've done this for other games too, right? For example, not necessarily like Atlas, right?
Hmm.
Um, but like for things like what am I thinking of? Crash Bandicoot trilogy remake. Like that was obviously on PS4 first. Obviously, they were trying to go with some nostalgia play,
Timed
but then
exclusive.
yeah. So maybe that's the case here, or maybe they just led with it, which has also
Yeah.
happened for other games.
Hmm.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if Persona 5 The Royal came to Switch. A mutual follow on Twitter, Stealth, uh, he tweeted that he's been hearing from some of his people that Persona 5 The Royal will be exclusive to PlayStation 4, and that Persona 5 the original will be coming to PC and Switch.
okay,
Uh,
okay.
he says he doesn't know if he fully believes that, but we'll throw it out there just so it's out there.
It sounds plausible, though I would be disappointed if we didn't just get R.
I would prefer just getting the end.
Yeah.
Crafty J says, I would love female Joker, but it would be weird with the context of the trailer because she said she didn't like the Phantom Thieves, which Joker is a part of. That's a good point, but in the past, when they've done a female character, the character just had a different story associated with them. So I think that's still possible. And hold on, we are pushing out no data at all.
Uh-oh.
And it's back.
Uh-oh.
It was doing that for
Gotta
like
love it.
15 seconds. So yeah, certainly possible. Let's see. Crafty J says, since Persona 5 The Royal is confirmed for PS4, I hope you can transfer your data with the original to do a new game plus. Yeah, that would be nice, because 100 hours is a big investment into a single game. And Dream Drop, or Santi, says, I'm just sad that Persona 5 The Royal isn't named Persona 5 Ruby, considering the game's color and Persona 4's upgrade being golden.
Well, you know what it is, man. It's just like, that's marketing. They just, I don't, I don't know. I feel like Royal would have been appropriate if the color was purple.
Or
And
blue.
that's certainly a point to make. But maybe there's also another reason why they named it Royal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So let's move on into some other general news for Nintendo. And one is something that you told me just before the show started, and that's that some Target stores are selling their Labo kits for between $18 and $21, coming from My Nintendo News.
yeah, they're super cheap, and I'm like really tempted. I've been kind of waiting for this because I kind of anticipated it just because of like the actual value of some of these kits, and the fact that they're all just cardboard. Like I imagine that Nintendo overpriced these right out the gate because they could probably get some people to buy them.
Like the early
Um,
adopters.
yeah, man, and some people thought it was worth it. Obviously, families probably picked up a lot of them, but now that they're getting so cheap, like this would be the time to bite because I don't see how they could get much cheaper than 18 to $18 to $21,
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I
And
don't see it getting any
I've
cheaper either.
yeah. And obviously these aren't like any of the new ones because I don't think the VR kit hasn't dropped, has it?
No, it's coming out next month.
Yeah, so they're probably clearing some stock, honestly, for some of these new kits because I imagine the VR one will probably be pretty popular, just because it's so cheap and so accessible, and who doesn't love a little bit of VR in their lives?
Yeah. So in addition to that, I don't think this is entirely confirmed, but I'll say it anyway. G4K, this comes from My Nintendo News, who is known for localizing video games, have actually announced on their website that they have been working on localizing Professor Layton and the Curious Village on the Nintendo Switch, as well as Layton's Mystery Journey, Catriel, and the Millionaire's Conspiracy. If this
I
happens, I'm way on board.
Yeah, I played most of this game. I didn't finish it though because I think I lent my copy to somebody and then I never got it back.
One of those,
But
huh?
that's yeah. I mean, it's okay. I'm over it. I'm not too upset. Uh, but I mean, obviously, if it's coming to Switch, like, oh, please, if you're a fan of visual novels, if you're a fan of puzzles, if you're a fan of clicking around on screens, like this is a great game to do that with, and it's got a whole bunch of character, both Professor Layton and I can't remember the boy's name.
Luke?
Yes, yes. Uh, really charming. I really like this game, and I love to play more of them. I've been really kind of having a hankering for both Professor Layton and for Ace Attorney as of late. So I'm gonna try to get my
Well, you're
hands
in
dirty
luck,
with
my
those.
friend.
I know, right? It's just we're gonna keep bringing those games to all your Switch. Give me that sweet Ace Attorney trilogy soon.
uh, so we talked about VR, or excuse me, we talked about Labo a little bit earlier, and I want to bring it back to Labo really quick to talk about Labo VR, and that's because Nintendo did release a like 7-minute long video, actually showing some of the games and how it all works. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into the games. What I want to get into is the really neat new feature that allows you to program your own VR games. What?
Yeah, how does this work? What does the interface look like? What to what degree can you customize it, you know?
Well,
And
they show it in the video,
mhm.
and it looks like it just looks like a game engine from the inside. You know, it's a grid floor with nothing in it, and you put the things in it, and then you edit them.
Right.
The programming is pretty similar to how the Toy-Con programming has been like up till
Mhm.
now, where you have little boxes or nodes, I guess, that you connect to each other,
Yeah.
that do different things. So you can customize that for like if you make a character and you want the character to move around, that kind of stuff. It gets down to that nitty of a gritty. You know what I'm saying? Like you can change the way your characters function. Uh, you can design levels just by placing things around and changing their size and shapes and that kind of stuff. Uh, I guess you have victory conditions for how you actually win. It seems to be incredibly in depth in a way
Mhm.
that I would have never expected. The thing also comes with like 60 to 70 plus mini games in it, just
Yeah.
way more than all the other PR or all the other Labo kits.
Maybe they took some criticism to heart, and they were like, "Hey, we should probably release these with more content." And maybe even obviously you can create your own game. So having plenty of examples of what that could look like is probably a good step.
It mentions here in the press release that all of the games available in the VR Plaza were developed using Toy-Con Garage VR. So everything that they did in the game is something that you can achieve by programming,
Okay.
which is a pretty neat idea. So basically, Nintendo's like, here's what we came up with. Now tell us what you can come up with.
Yeah.
Crafty J makes a good point, saying Toy-Con Garage VR sounds amazing, but you can't really share your games online, which is a bit upsetting. If that's a functionality that gets added with this, that'd be great. Because it does kind of limit, I think, the drive for people to create because they can't directly share it with other people.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard, it's very hard, to record the games because you have to wear the Switch on your face, which means you can't capture it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one, huh? How do you do
Yeah.
that then? You could use the
I
onboard recorder, but that's only 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe at a certain point they just develop a system to be able to stream it to third party devices as opposed to actually having like an actual like wired connection,
Hmm.
like I mean right now for the most part if you want to stream something it just has to be either on the computer you're streaming or there's got to be an HDMI cord going somewhere. But I mean, I definitely streaming. It is not unheard of to stream, a stream to a separate source. So I wonder if at
Wii
any
U
point,
gamepad, anybody?
yeah, I mean, so I wonder if at any point they will incorporate that. You
Good
know,
question.
okay.
No, I was saying that's a good question.
Oh, I just heard question, and I
No,
was like, go for it.
no.
So yeah.
And if
Um,
yeah, if they do that, and then also just make your stuff shareable, you know,
yeah.
really foster that community.
Also, it should be noted with this Labo VR kit, obviously they have the complete VR kit for $79.99, $80. And then the starter kit, which is the starter set, the actual like visor thing and the blaster for $39.99. And then you can buy the rest of it in two expansion sets for $19.99 each. And so if you buy the VR kit, the starter set, and the blaster, and then buy the expansion sets, you're actually going to get it for 2 cents cheaper than you would if you just bought the Nintendo Labo VR kit.
That's what I call extreme couponing.
Yeah, man. So if you want to save 2 cents, like you might need it down the line because I find myself lacking in 2 cents every once in a while.
Ugh, that's a good joke. That was a
Thanks.
quality crafted meme.
It was so natural. It had to happen.
It really was. Um, so here's kind of a funny story. And this comes to us directly from the people working on the Detective Pikachu movie. Um, let's see. Let me make sure I get us the right source here. Okay, so this is coming from Game Informer specifically. Apparently, they actually tested Danny DeVito for the role of Detective Pikachu.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they like put famous lines of his over like test footage to see how it played. And I'll just read this quote here directly from the from the VFX producer Greg Baxter in the Game Informer interview.
Okay.
He says it was really funny because so I couldn't speak to all the reasons why it wasn't Danny DeVito cast. I love Danny, and at some point, maybe after the movies come out, we can share those early tests. It's absolutely hilarious. I can't give away too much, but in terms of where the story goes and how it evolves, we had to sort of look at everything, including what fans weren't seeing yet to make the decision. But that spirit of Danny DeVito, I promise you, is still inside of Pikachu. So, there you have it. So all you people who really wanted Danny DeVito in the movie know that they thought about it, they worked with it, and they decided that it wasn't the right choice.
I feel like it would be really funny if they got Danny DeVito to voice like a tertiary character who is also a Pikachu. But I doubt that would happen, but I think it would still be great. Maybe in
maybe
the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. We're only 2 months away from Detective Pikachu. I get more excited.
So soon.
I know.
I was just there's so many things that are just creeping up.
Oh no, it's a month and a half.
Oh god, like
Avengers Endgame is coming out next month. Shazam's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Dumbo's this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, even thinking about it, like something like Fire Emblem Three Houses is like only 4 months away. You know,
Super Mario Maker, 2 months away.
It's all gonna just fly by, and then we're gonna have all these new
E3
pieces of media. Yeah, E3's here again. What? What? Didn't it just happen? Didn't it just happen?
Man, that's crazy to me. The night that Paul bought his E3 badge, I was like, wow, Paul, E3's in 2 months. And he's like, what?
Oh, man. Oof.
Yeah, so actually, I guess while we're on the topic, we'll let you know when we're gonna do our E3 predictions, because last year we did them like 2 months early, and we're coming up on the anniversary of having done that. So we'll let you know exactly when we plan on doing that. But I don't think it'll be much longer from now. If Nintendo announces their E3 plans in the next month, which is generally when they decide to do it, we'll probably schedule it right for around then. So just throwing that out there. We're going to try and get Roger again, too.
Yeah, Roger.
We love you. Crafty J says, I feel like E3 just happened and I screamed, Solid Snake, yesterday. I've watched that video of me yelling Snake like 30 times.
Snake! Snake!
Oh my god, I think my neighbors were concerned. Because I don't yell like that, and I yelled.
Yeah, it's always it's great to find those moments where you just kind of like your inhibitions have been completely removed and then you end up hurting your voice.
So some other neat stuff coming to Switch from some of our third-party friends include the Anniversary Collection Arcade Classics, the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, and the Contra Anniversary Collection, all from Konami, celebrating 50 years of Konami.
Yeah. I love that it includes I think I've said this before. I love that it includes Haunted Castle.
Yeah.
Which is like the actual title of a legitimate like why am I like Castlevania title. It was the arcade title, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny that this would happen because like I literally just had a conversation with a coworker who was very much of this age of gaming, you know, like he was very much an adult like during like the fourth generation consoles, all the 16-bit consoles. And so and I don't I I won't endorse emulating games outside of just preservation of games. But he showed me as he was emulating Haunted Castle, which obviously you can't get anywhere else, but now you can,
Right.
you know, which is great. I think this is a great uh, collection of collections.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like if I will pick any of these up. Obviously, the arcade classics is really tempting just because of the history and also just the kind of inaccessibility of some of these titles, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's dropping the same day as Cuphead there on the 18th.
Yeah,
Um,
so I guess I'll play Cuphead in arcade games. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
so let's just go through the list of games real quick. On the Anniversary Collection, you can get Haunted Castle, Typhoon, Nemesis, Vulcan Venture, Life Force, Thundercross, Scramble, and Twin B. On the Castlevania Collection, then there's more like extra stuff, but we won't get into that. But on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, you can get Castlevania, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge, Super Castlevania 4, and then 4 unannounced games, which will also be in the collection.
Yeah, that's interesting. Why are they keeping those from us? Like, are we getting like what was the one with Richter? It was the
Uh,
PC Engine game, right?
Dracula X, Rondo of Blood.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's included in this. Like we're
That
gonna
would
get
get me to
some
buy it.
like some real rarities in here. That would be the really compelling point, you know, especially now that Richter is in Smash with Simon Belmont.
And then if they also put in Symphony of the Night, because you play as Richter at the very beginning of that, that's
Okay.
like the complete Richter package.
Beginning of a game and a
and
game.
it's like Snake in MGS 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think that's gonna be super cool. There are probably gonna be a couple of maybe the DS games on there as well. There's a lot of
Hmm.
side-scrolling, Castlevania games. And then Symphony of the Night was like the turn into Castlevania, Metroidvania.
Yeah.
So I imagine a few of those will be on there as well. But yeah, super exciting that that's coming. And then the Contra Anniversary Collection correction has Contra, Super C, Contra 3, The Alien Wars, my personal favorite, and then 4 unannounced games.
Yeah. So I guess I guess this is an effective strategy, right? Talk about the collections, talk about like no duh, of course these games are coming with it. Castlevania 2, Castlevania 3, Super Castlevania 4, obviously some mainstays, but then saying like, hey, wait, there's more. So you get it into people's head, and then you entice them with, oh, there's gonna be a little bit more information to come.
And I think that's a good answer to Crafty J saying if it's re-releases, why not announce them? Because the Anniversary Collection's coming out next month. They've announced the entire lineup for that game. That's because it's coming out soon. They announced all 3 of these at the same time. So once Castlevania Collection is close to actually releasing, they'll announce those other games to keep it in the heads of the consumer. And they'll do
Yeah.
the same thing with Contra when it comes to that as well. Uh, Crafty J says, speaking of old games on current systems, why won't Square Enix port the Final Fantasy 13 games? They're the only ones I cared about. Well, I mean, it's surprising enough that we're getting all the Final Fantasy that we are getting on Switch, so maybe it'll happen someday.
Yeah, I mean, I know like by time like we hit Final Fantasy 13, like there was a lot of like waning in terms of like the quality and obviously I don't know too much, so take this with a grain of salt. But always my perception of like some of those later games is that they weren't that it had kind of fallen off, especially like after 10. So I can't imagine like how big of a um like desire, or how many people actually want like Final Fantasy 13 as opposed to Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10. These kind of things that are much more well received for their time, and then also people keep clamoring for them, especially on the Switch. We haven't had Final Fantasy 7 on a Nintendo console. We haven't had some of these games, but now we're getting them. And so maybe down the line, maybe there is enough people to spout off about Final Fantasy 13 that we get it,
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not going to be that person unless I get really, really into these games once they drop. Obviously, is it Final Fantasy 9 that's already out on the Switch?
Yes, that one dropped during the last direct, and then 7 is
Yeah.
coming out this week, I
Oh,
think.
okay. Because I might have to play it. I was watching a stream. Okay, shout out to the Progressive Voice. I was watching his stream the other day, and he mostly does some political stuff, but he was playing some games and talking gaming. And there was a little bit of an exchange in there about, he said Final Fantasy VII is far and above the best Final Fantasy game. And I was like, well, I have some friends who would disagree with you, because I obviously some people are really big fans of Final Fantasy 9. And then he brushed that aside. And I was like, oh, so dismissive. He must be really, really confident. The Final Fantasy 7 is the best. I think I might start with Final Fantasy 7. That might be where I just, okay, this is where I'm getting into the
And it's
series.
probably best to do that too, because like if you go to 9 and then see why our friends think 9 is the best and go back to 7, and then maybe 7 will be less playable for you.
Right, right. So play something earlier. I mean, I also have Final Fantasy, is it 3 on the SNES Classic?
Which is Final Fantasy 6 in Japan.
Right, right. But
Just making sure we're on the same page.
right, I know it has two different names depending on the region, which is like uber confusing. But um I'll eventually get around to playing those, but I think I might start with 7.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the same thing. What's up, Conman? Glad to have seen you yesterday. Wish I could have seen you more, but we spent so much time on the C2E2 floor, just unable to coordinate where we were going to be. The only reason I like ran into Santi is because I was like, I'm in line to play Taiko, because we found a real Taiko machine.
Oh, yeah, I saw the pictures, I saw the snaps. I was like, oh, you guys are about to have a time.
It was super fun.
Uh, it
Uh,
was it's kind of surreal seeing some of those arcade machines, because like some of those games, like that's their real home, in a
mhm.
lot of ways, especially based on the fact that the style of gameplay is very arcadish, right? You're going for the highest score. You're trying to get a higher score than everybody else. It's like when I walked into a big old bowling alley like a few weeks ago, and there was a Beat Saber arcade machine,
Oh,
right?
that's awesome.
I know. I was so tempted, but we didn't stay. If we had stayed to actually play to bowl, I would have done it, because obviously I love Beat Saber, and there was just a vibe just hanging from it. And they even had like two like spinning holographic Beat Saber like logos at the top. Like, no, the only display was the lights spinning, right?
Oh, okay.
And it looked 3D, it looked holographic, right? So I thought that was really cool. The presentation was really cool. It was like front and center. Like I walked into it, and right to the right there was this Beat Saber arcade machine. So it's exciting to hear that you guys went in there and found this Taiko arcade machine, because man, I'd love to go into an arcade and say like, oh look, it's Taiko, and actually get a chance to play it.
Oh, yeah, it was super cool. Like definitely the best way to play Taiko is on a real Taiko machine. Uh, so when we make our trip to Japan, pre like tentatively next year, that's something I absolutely have to do. Is I have to play Taiko again.
Yeah.
uh, Conman says we need to go to a round one arcade sometime. Yeah, man, I'm down. We definitely need to do that. And Moose Man in the chat, he says Kingdom Hearts 3 never actually came out. We all just had a fever dream that it did. It
Mhm.
kind of feels that way. And then last but not least, just want to mention this real quick. We talked extensively about Xbox and Nintendo and what they've been doing together. Um, the Xbox teams has said they are in fact bringing Xbox Live to Switch specifically for Cuphead support.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've done it for Minecraft.
Right.
You know.
So yeah. They also talked about at their GDC panel that they're going to do more support like that for other platforms, including the Switch, but they had nothing specific to announce at that time. But those rumors were confirmed by the fact that the panel, in fact, did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But no other news of collaborations beyond that. So yeah, that's our Nintendo stuff for the last week and some change.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to get a week where there's some actual news, and this one was quite good. Even if it was just Cadence of Hyrule, like that would have been a good week.
Yeah.
But we got some other things thrown in here, and again, I will echo this every podcast if I get the chance. It's good to be a Switch owner.
It seriously, like, it was super funny. Like, like I said, I had my nephew here, and
Mm-hmm.
they were playing Smash Brothers, and they were like, "All right, we're gonna play something else." And Michaela opened my Switch library, like my digital library, which I guess also includes physical games when you're looking through the menu. And it just
Yeah.
opened up, and it was just woo, of all these games, and I was like, "Holy cow! I had no idea I had this much stuff."
Yeah, mine's pretty stacked at this point. Like I can't remember the last time like I had so many games like for a singular console. Like there's a lot of them.
You have Skyrim?
No, my brother has Skyrim. And I downloaded it and was gonna try to play
Oh, you play on
via
his account?
yeah, his account. I would like to pick up Skyrim eventually for Switch because I've never played all the way through that game, and the Switch would be a perfect way to do that. But I won't pay I won't pay more than 30. So
Yeah, $60, man.
steep for a game that's like
I was
8 years old.
I was gonna buy Sekiro. I know this is a Nintendo podcast, but I was gonna buy Sekiro, and then Paul ended up buying it. And he's like, "This game's hard. You want to borrow it?" I said, "I said sure."
That's all it's about, man. Share with your friends. Give your friends the gift of games. Even if that's like, hey, I finished this game and I know you're not going to go out and buy it, but I know you're interested in it. So,
Yeah, it's like when Spider-Man came out. After I finished it, I lent it to Josiah. Paul's also
yeah.
sending Nier over to me, a game I've wanted to play for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. He's currently diving into Kingdom Hearts and doing all the the catching up he's got to do because he bought Kingdom Hearts 3 and he wants to play it. So and I look forward to talking to him about Kingdom Hearts 3 now that I've had some time to kind of process it, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, we had that spoiler discussion a couple months ago as well. If you wanted to listen to that, still on the channel. Yeah, I mentioned I went to C2E2, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
There's
Yes,
some
you
pictures
did.
of that on my Twitter if you want to take a look. I got a picture with I got pictures with Santi and David, of course. I actually have more of those to upload. I'll do that right after the show. But I got one with Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, the voices of Goku and Vegeta. Lifelong dream to get to meet those guys, so that was super awesome. Even though Sean, I think, was a little under the weather, but you know, it's
Oh, I know
understandable.
that feeling.
Yeah. It was so funny. Dylan, we had to retake the photo, and the second time we went up, Dylan just like threw himself on Chris, and Chris leaned into him. He was into it. Yeah.
There's usually like at that point, like there's an understanding, right?
Yeah.
Like the people who are wanting to take pictures, one, you have to pay for the photo shoot, and so like if you're going to be paying money for that, it's probably because you appreciate the work that they do, and there's a bond there,
Yeah.
you know. So
I could feel the Saiyan energy emanating from that small cube that we took the photo in.
is it like the closest you've been to going Super Saiyan?
Yeah, I had my arm all the way around Sean, and I could feel the Goku.
The energy. Oh, that's so
man,
exciting.
yeah, it was super great. Also got to finally meet Rogers Base in person. It was so funny. Like He might upload the. I don't know if he's uploading the Japan Time panel. He did last year, but if he does, he gave me a quick shout out at the beginning of the show, which
Oh,
yeah,
nice,
he did.
nice.
He pointed me out. And he's like, "Hey, Brandon," and I said, "What's up, man?" Yeah, and then I got to meet with him in person, and the first thing we did, we embraced, we hugged.
Yes.
It was a meeting that was
Yes.
really all this time, waiting for it to happen. I know
Yeah.
Santi and David have gotten to meet Roger before, but that was my first time getting to meet him in person.
Yeah.
But he was really great. Also, Reagan, his girlfriend's a sweetheart. She was super nice to us as well. She was also on the panel. Yeah, it was a great time. Glad got to talk with Roger. It sounds like we'll be doing some E3 stuff with him. I'll give you more details on that once we iron those details out. But definitely gonna get him on for predictions again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of cool stuff going on around here at the Break Room Arcade. Feeling good. I'm feeling good, guys. Feeling real good.
You should. You should. We do good work. You do good work. And I love what we do, and that's why we do it. So
And if you like what we do, you can leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. You can follow me on Twitter at Babababs. You can follow Logan at LoggyDoves. You can follow us as a collective at Breakroom Arcade. Make sure to also follow Paul at Gunnysaurus. He'll be rejoining the Nintendo Stuff podcast starting next week. Very exciting to have him back. Yeah. If you want to catch the three of us doing stuff together, we just did a Monster Hunter stream before this. The VOD for that is still on the channel. And if you really like what we do here and you want to help support the show and help us achieve the autonomy that we're desperately hoping to get to one day, we do have a Patreon. If you want to donate as little as $1 a month, we'd really appreciate it.
yeah.
So thanks so much for that, guys. We've got plenty more in store here at the Break Room Arcade. Make sure to come back next week. I think we're thinking Saturday morning if everything works out for Nintendo Stuff next week. Sorry that it's been inconsistent on what day. It's just Logan's schedule's not locked in like me and Paul, so we're just kind of throwing it around when we can,
Yeah. Hence why we want our autonomy. Screw having bosses and day jobs. It's that's the past. The future is here.
We're doing it.
Yeah, we're
slowly.
Doing it.
So yeah, with all that in mind, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching the show. We will see you next week, and we'll let you know what's going on in the world of Brandon and Logan and Paul. So don't break your backs, breaking the games, but for now, break time's over.